It's a wonder how we ended up this way. Someone lit a fire and then turned and walked away. And the forest is burning down. And the forest is burning down. It feels helpless, but every time I scream, they say you can't feel the flames, that we're overreacting. And the forest is burning down. And the forest is burning down.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Wispy Mob Music Acoustic Radio Podcast Series. I'm your host, Todd, middle initial C. Walker. Yes, that's right, it's me. And we have been listening to a minimalist recording of a song by the title Ashes by Dominica Knapp. And Dominica lives not too far from me. And many years ago, we shared the same stage for some musical events. And she's on the telephone with me right now. Hello, Dominica. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I am well. Thank you, first of all, for joining me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I've never. This is my first podcast, actually. So this is pretty interesting.
Well, if it goes well, then we will do a video version of it where you can actually play for the camera. How's that?
That sounds like a good time.
All right. Now, speaking of playing, you play both guitar and banjo. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you play what do you call the style of banjo playing?
I play a style of banjo called some people call it clawhammer style. It also can be called overhand style, or frailing is another use for it.
Now Now, when I knew you back a ways, and by the way, you still look as young as you did then, just so we cleared the air here.
A few more gray hairs.
You know what? They add character.
It happens to the best of us.
It does, unfortunately. How did you get, because when I knew you back when, you were playing guitar. When did you start playing banjo?
Actually I started playing banjo over the pandemic, which is kind of funny. I had heard many, probably eight, I want to say eight, 6 to 8 years ago. I had heard my husband and I went to go see Bela Fleck and Abigail Washburn when they came to the Weinberg, and I had never heard Clawhammer Banjo before. So, when you hear banjo, a lot of people are like, run,
Yes.
paddle faster, the banjos are coming. But I heard Clawhammer and I was like, wow, that's beautiful, because it's melodic.
Yes.
It's beautiful and melodic, and it doesn't have that, sometimes it can be, the 3-finger bluegrass style can be a little overpowering. And I mean, I'm a vocalist first and foremost, so you don't ever really want your instrument to overpower your vocals. You want a nice blend. So I heard that and I said, oh my gosh, I need to learn how to do that. And so that was the year I got a little good time Deering good time banjo for a Christmas present under the tree. But I didn't even know where to look. Like, I didn't know there are not many clawhammer banjo players in Frederick. And I was working so much. I was teaching yoga, and we had a little, we were homeschooling our child, and it was just, things were really busy. So I put that down and just kept looking at it. And then over the pandemic, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to learn this. I'm going to do it. And I did. I had a Zoom banjo teacher, and there's many resources on Patreon now, which is great. And the rise of interest in Americana music at the moment, especially right now, is just, it's blowing up. It's amazing. There's clawhammer banjo everywhere now.
Now, by any chance, was your Zoom instructor Kevin Neidig up in Pennsylvania?
No, it was a lady named Janie Rothfield, and she's out in near Stanton, Virginia. And I was just at Clifftop Appalachian Music Festival out in the middle of Clifftop, West Virginia. I just got back on Sunday, and I bumped into Janie, and I hadn't seen her in person. And so I ran up to her and I was like, Janie, and she was like, in the flesh. And so it was kind of fun.
Now, how did you find her in the first place?
So basic. I was so basic. I went on to Deering's website and it had a list of, Zoom banjo instructors. And I was like, well, I sort of trust Deering. They probably know their way around the banjo a little bit. So if somebody's a registered teacher with Deering, I'll hit them up. And I did, and it was fun. It was good.
Now, did you take classes like once a week or once a month? How did you do that?
I did weekly for a while, until I kind of got rolling. And then once I got most of the techniques, there's a lot of different clawhammer technique is vastly different than strumming a guitar. I would almost say it's, there's so many. You can do your basic bum ditty with your right hand, which is it's your traditional clawhammer technique, or you can learn drop thumbing and double thumbing and alternate string pull-offs, and it's a lot of right hand and left hand coordination. So once I kind of got that down, then I didn't really work with her that much anymore, because I kind of just went off and on my own and
Now, do you think it was a help that you were a guitar player, or was that a hindrance?
Oh, that was a big help. And actually, I look back on, I look at my style. I have a very melodic approach to playing guitar. I see a lot of people play guitar, and they do a little strumming, and they do, you'll do your Travis picking or your, finger pick style. My style was always very melodic. So when I started playing clawhammer, I found it to be very similar in nature. So it really wasn't that much of a learning curve. It almost felt like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be playing.
So when in that learning stage in the beginning, how often did you pick the banjo up on a daily basis, or maybe not
Every
daily?
Day.
Every day for how long?
Every day, hours. I probably I set up, and when I was learning, it was a lot. And it's still kind of a lot, because I still am in a constant state of learning. But I probably play for at least 2 hours a day, sometimes more. Sometimes my husband comes downstairs and it's like, do you realize it's midnight? And I'm like, oh, oops, I probably need to go to bed. Sorry.
No, we're the first.
It's also a very loud instrument too. That doesn't help.
Well, especially if you're playing bluegrass style.
I play a little bluegrass style, but not really a lot. I do. I'm really into Appalachian acoustic blues, which is completely different than bluegrass. I'll play bluegrass because it's fun and because it's such a community-based music. I hit a bluegrass jam once a week, and and it's a good time, and it's a lot of people playing music together, and the energy is there, and we all have a really, great fun time and create community, which I love. But like when I'm playing my stuff, I'm playing like, Hobart Smith and Lead Belly and Blind Willie Johnson, and a little bit more blues based.
Now, were you into the Appalachian blue style of music prior to picking up the banjos? When you were solely a guitar player, what was the genre that you kind of fit in or described that when someone said, what type of playing do you do?
Gosh, I've always had a very big influence of blues and jazz. I love blues and jazz. When I played guitar, it was folk, blues, jazz based, influenced.
I would
say,
yeah. And you just said when I played guitar.
I know. Yes, I still play guitar. I still do. I enjoy playing the banjo more, so I'll play guitar, and people are always like, "Wow, you play." I'm like, I can walk and chew gum at the same time.
So my guess would be the banjo is on a stand, so you can see it, and the guitar's in a guitar case.
Oh yeah, my many banjos are hanging on walls. I have banjos on pretty much every wall of my living room.
Well, that brings up a question. How soon after you started? Well, first of all, let me jump back a little bit. Was it frustrating in the beginning, and how long did it take to go from, if it was frustrating to, oh, I kind of have this?
I think anytime you start something new, it's going to be a little frustrating, but I had I had an outlook, and it was funny because I was put in a position where I didn't, I was in my living room. It was a pandemic. I wasn't going out anywhere. Like, I wasn't doing anything. I didn't have to perform. And as somebody who's, I mean, I've been a performer ever since I was a child, but, you know, I didn't have that pressure of doing that. So I really got to dig into this idea of being a beginner and like kind of enjoying really being terrible at something. If that makes any sense at all. I was like, this is great. I have no idea what I'm doing. And I'm just going to like enjoy the process of learning it.
Well, there are many people in life who should enjoy the joy of doing something rather than how is this going to look to everybody else.
Right. And that was the greatest thing ever. And I also had, you know, I always have a little bit of a contrary I have a very contrary personality every once in a while. So, you know, the more people that kind of were like, ew, you're going to play the banjo? Because, you know, people don't understand like any of that music for the most part. So they find it to be a little odd. I'm like, yeah, of course I'm going to play the banjo. And I'm really going to play the banjo now because.
Well, how long did it take for you to graduate from the Deering Good Time to a more expensive or better quality banjo?
Probably a year, 2 years.
Now, was that because you just felt that you had outgrown the Good Time, or you were looking for different sound, or maybe better playability? What was the interest in changing?
My husband actually encouraged it. He's like, you probably need a better banjo. And I'm like, I probably do. So my next banjo I got was, it was probably about a year because it was still during the pandemic. And I had put an order in. All I wanted for Christmas, now it's like my husband, he says, you need a better banjo because this one, like, this is your thing. Because it was obvious that was going to be my thing. And he was like, what about a custom? And I'm like, that would be kind of cool. And so I had an order put in for, you know, somebody to build me a banjo. And because of all the supply chain issues, it didn't come to fruition, but I was like, well, and so I found my banjo my first upgrade was a banjo from a Colorado company called Ome, O-M-E.
Mm-hmm.
And I loved it. It was beautiful. It was ornate. It was beautiful. It sounded amazing. So you pick up a high quality instrument like that. And, you know, now I still have my Deering Good Time, but I usually take that camping.
But you don't have the OME?
I do. Yep.
Oh, okay.
I have that one too. Yep.
So you went from the Deering to the OME or Ohm, however you pronounce it. What'd you go to after that?
Then my next banjo was a company out of Pisgah, North Carolina, called a Pisgah. And I got that one because I was going to a lot of the bluegrass jams, and open back banjos, because of the style banjo I play, we think of banjos that have the big resonators on them, and the resonators are loud, like very loud. They project, and they weigh a ton. My husband has a really nice resonator banjo, and I wouldn't want to have to carry that around because it weighs a lot. But the open back banjos, when you stand to play with them, your body mutes the back of the banjo, so it's not very loud. So my next banjo I got was from a company called Pisgah, which I love Pisgah. I think I love the work that they do. with the African American community to try to help reclaim the banjo to its, to its source, because the banjo is actually an African instrument. And that one is a louder banjo. It has a different tone ring, and it's a different size pot. So it's a 12. That's the Pisca is what I usually play out, just because I love playing it. I love the sound of it. It's rich and the tone is very full, and it's a 12-inch pot, which gives you a little deeper of a sound. And the tone ring is a tubaphone tone ring, so it's got it's a brass tone ring that's hollow on the inside and has a bunch of holes in it, so it acts as like almost like an internal resonator. So it packs a little bit more of a punch. So I can take that to like a bluegrass jam and survive with it, not get eaten alive by all the other, really super loud resonator banjos. The ohm is just a beautiful, like, beautiful sounding banjo, but it's more delicate. The sound is more delicate than the Pisca. The sound is a little bit more robust.
Now, in many of the photos on your website, and for those of you folks who are listening, if you'd like to check out Dominica's website, it's Dominica Knapp, and Knapp is Knapp, DominicaKnappMusic.com. In many of the photos that you had taken somewhere in the woods or on a trail or gravel road, the banjo has the headstock overlay is black, and it has really nice inlay, and then has some inlay on the fretboard. Which banjo is that one? That's the ohm. That's the ohm, yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then the one in some of the videos that has a very large head, that would be the Pisca? That would be the Pisca, yeah. Exactly. Okay. The Pisca, it was funny because I was talking with my husband about, he also plays music too. So we're both kind of like, we always talk about instruments and different stuff like that. And he likes all the inlay. He thinks that's nice. And I'm like, I like it too. I like the inlay, but personally I could care less what the instrument looks like, as long as it has, I'm so particular with a specific sound. Like, it has to have a specific sound. If it doesn't have that specific sound, then I don't want anything to do with it. I don't care what it looks like. I also have a cigar box guitar. like that's a weird little thing, and it's not very high quality. It doesn't, they're made out of pretty much 2x4, pieces of wood and cigar boxes and random, electrical parts and stuff. But they have a specific sound. I'm like, I like that sound. So. Now, is your cigar box guitar, is it a 3-string, a 4-string? It's a 4-string. Yeah. I'm still trying to get the hang of that one. Now, is that tuned like a mandolin, like a 4-string banjo, or is it like a tenor guitar, which is the first 4 strings of a guitar? I have it right now tuned to the first 4 strings of the guitar. But, any open tuning will work with the with those 4-string. Like, you can do any. There's that's the other thing with the Clawhammer Banjo. As well, there's 8,000 different tunings that you use, because they're all open tunings. So you're only using a couple fingers at the most of the time when you're fretting? Yes. Yeah. Now, I have seen, because what is it? I get a company out of New Hampshire that supplies parts for cigar box guitars, something Giddy or Gibby or something like that. And some of their videos have led me to other videos, and it seems like there are a lot of blues players who play cigar box guitars. Mm-hmm. Some of them sound incredible. I know, it's so cool. It's one of those, it's an instrument that
a lot of these, especially a lot of the homemade instruments, or the more, your cigar box guitar and your like drum, kind of kettle drum bass, stand up bass kind of thing. All of those types of instruments are all, they were a big necessity, because the people at the time that were playing these, where these came about, they didn't have any, they weren't going to go to your retail music store and buy an instrument, because they were literally using the tin cans that they had food that they ate from or found in the garbage to make instruments to play. I mean, I always, as someone who plays, especially, you play more Appalachian style music, you play fiddle tunes, you play that folk Americana style of music, you almost innately become like this music anthropologist in a way, and you just dive deep into where did this come from, and why did this happen, and why were these instruments created, and why did it's kind of interesting.
Now, you mentioned that as nice as inlays and the ornateness of an instrument is, it's more the sound for you. How about playability? Because I would imagine the necks are basically the same, like they are with guitars, but each guitar or each brand of guitar, and sometimes different models within one guitar company, can feel different. How does the OM or the OME compare playability-wise with the other one?
The Piscos neck is wider, so that is definitely different. They're both made really well. So the frets are polished and filed down on the top. You can't feel anything. They each have a scoop. I'm sitting here looking at them right now. So each of the necks have a scoop. So it's great for clawhammer players, because we tend to play up on the neck. So when we strike with our right hand, we don't strike on the middle of the pot of the banjo. We strike up towards the neck. So each of the banjos have a scoop on the neck, so that it's more comfortable. So you don't end up hitting frets when you're playing.
And I've seen them. So it's almost as if they stopped putting frets in and then left about anywhere 3 to 4 inches, maybe 5 inches of just fretboard. There's probably scooped a little bit, so it's angled low to high from the way your hand moves, low to high, I would imagine.
Yeah. So that's kind of nice.
Yeah. Because a resonator banjo has frets all the way up, I think, doesn't it?
Yes, but they anchor their pinky or their ring finger, and they play down on the pot. So they play more in the center of the drum head.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned that both you and your husband are musicians. So was he a banjo player before you were?
Yes. He plays more bluegrass.
Right. And that didn't get you interested prior? It was only when you heard the clawhammer style that really got interested?
Yep. I love clawhammer style.
Yeah.
I mean, Abigail Washburn, Rhiannon Giddens, oh my goodness. I love clawhammer style.
Well, if I remember correctly from my acoustic guitar advertisements from many years ago, I think Abigail Washburn, didn't she play an OME for a long time?
Oh, yeah, she has the same one that I have.
Oh, okay.
I play the Juniper. The Juniper is the model that I play. And it was funny because when I was looking for an upgrade, because it's a syndrome. It's called, I have a disease, and it's called banjo acquisition syndrome. That's what it is. It's serious. But when I was looking for an upgrade, I was like, well, Matt's like, what banjo does Abigail play? And I was like, I don't know. So I'm Googling it. And I start laughing hysterically. And he's like, what? And I was like, well, she plays the juniper. So there's that.
So how do you decide when you write music? Because you're also a songwriter. In fact, that song Ashes is one of yours. And once you and I finish our conversation, the people listening to the show will hear Where I Stand, which and I chose that because I wanted to lead off with the banjo. I wanted to end with the guitar because you do play both. How do you decide when you are writing as to which instrument you're going to be playing to go with that song?
This is funny because I write completely differently on the guitar than I do on the banjo. When I write on the guitar, a lot of times what happens is I will write the music and then the words kind of just come, and it's quick. It happens, within minutes. That something comes and I'm like, oh, this is an idea. And then I just start and I go. With the banjo, actually, the funny thing is I will write lyrics and then write the banjo part. But usually it takes a few days where I'm like, I write lyrics. I'm like, oh, these are cool lyrics. And then like in a couple days, I'll sit down and look at the lyrics that I wrote and then put the music to it. So it's definitely a different process.
So would the lyrics be your thoughts and the banjo part would be the mood?
Yes.
Okay. So you have to figure out what mood you want to be conveying with the lyrics, I guess.
Right. Yes. And because there's so many different tunings and so many different, I mean, ugh.
How do you remember all the tunings?
I have no idea. I typically stick to open G sometimes, but not really because I don't know.
Well, that's the general one that everyone instructs in, I think.
Correct. I really like sawmill tuning a lot. Or some people say mountain modal tuning. Double C tuning, I really like a lot.
Now, in a double C, which strings are the Cs?
So in a standard tuning, it would be your G fifth string, and then D, G, B, D.
Okay.
And then in your double C tuning, it would be G, C, G, C, D.
Okay.
And then in your triple C tuning, it would be the D would be C2.
Now, in the triple C, does that mean you could just bar fret to change chords since you've got so many C's in there, or not?
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
You could. A lot of times you play notes. So most of the time I'm playing a lot of notes or 2-finger chords, sometimes 3-finger chords, but yeah.
Well, I read an interesting article on Joni Mitchell at one point in time, and she's probably the user of more different tunings than anyone on the planet has ever been. But I had read one time, and they said the reason she played in open tunings where she could bar with her finger because she had some problem with her hand from an accident or something like that, and she had difficulty fretting the way most of us would fret on a guitar. And I thought, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Right.
So that's why I asked about the bar fretting on the triple C.
Yeah, no, I don't really do a huge amount of bar fretting because the style of banjo that I play is very melodic based. So you're not really playing, a lot of chordage. Really, you're playing a lot of notes and melodies. So it's a little different animal than playing a lot of bar bar chords on the guitar, which, I'll play bar chords on the guitar too, but it's a completely different animal.
Yeah. Now, was it difficult to learn clawhammer style and then be able to incorporate playing single notes? Because instead of brushing across, and I mean, I have a during good time banjo, and I have seconds of brilliance, and I mean just pure seconds, maybe two. And my difficult, and I didn't have an instructor, I was trying to do it just by watching some YouTubes, is I flick when I play guitar without a pick. That's just the way I do it. And so they said, no, not flick. It's you move the wrist up and down. You're not using the fingers. And then they said, oh, then you use like your middle finger or maybe your forefinger to pluck out single notes. Was that difficult to then incorporate single notes in with the, I don't know whether you call it the brush stroke or whatever, or was that easy for you?
The first time I did that, I found a YouTube video with, oh my goodness. I can't remember her name. Oh my goodness. I hate when I do that. She teaches with True Fire or whatever. She's Kathy Fink.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Very, very well known. And if I remember correctly, she lives in the DC area.
Shut the front door. Oh yeah, I think she does. That's funny. And she did a tutorial on YouTube for beginner banjo. This was 100 years ago. Well, probably, 3.5 years ago. And she taught how to just bum diddy and hit individual strings as you were doing your bum diddy. So first she taught your basic bum diddy brush stroke, and then she was like, now you just hit this individual string with, I get my frailing nails, and for people who play banjo, they'll be like, oh yeah, the frailing nail issue. I go to a nail salon and get 2 nails done every few weeks. And so I don't have to worry about breakage, but yes, I will hit. And I still do those drills because they're fun.
Now, when you
just hit individuals.
Now, when you say you get your nails done, is it so that the nail is extended slightly? So it's like a pick?
Yeah. Yep. Some people use those lead press-on nails, and some people grow their nails out. But I'm also, I work in the garden, I work around the house. I got my hands in the sink. I'm doing all that stuff. So it was this constant stress. It was actually stressful, worried about breaking nails. So when you broke your nail, you were kind of like, oh, I don't have a frailing nail. So then you'd have to stick on those stupid.
Now, do you decorate your picking nails, or do they just no?
They're just plain. I mean, I destroy them. So by the time I go back and get them redone, usually the nail tech is like, what are you doing?
I was just wondering if maybe like if you have a big gig at a festival coming up, if you had one decorated in day glow orange, or you know what I mean? Just so it
would just come right off.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So now let's switch over to guitars for a moment.
Okay.
I am trying to remember, and when I knew you and you were playing, I think you were playing a Martin, or was it a Taylor?
I still have that Martin. I still play that Martin. Yeah. And
then in one of the videos, I thought I saw what looked like a Guild, or I could be wrong.
It's a Gibson.
A Gibson. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you choose which guitar you're going to pick up when you want to write on guitar?
Whatever one is sitting beside me. So right now I'm looking at my Martin in the case in my living room. So the Gibson, I moved upstairs. So, okay, I'm sad. I have a dog who's very bossy. And when she says it's time for bed, it's time for bed, even if I'm not done playing. Mm-hmm. So I have a guitar upstairs. So after I go to bed, I can climb into bed and finish working on whatever I was working on. So she then can go to bed because I am I'm a slave to my dog.
I thought you were going to tell me she jumped up and landed on it and put a hole in it.
No, she's just like, excuse me, but it is time for bed.
Yeah.
And I say, okay. But then I have the bed guitar upstairs.
Yeah, I've got you. Okay.
And then my husband's banjo is upstairs. So if I still want to play banjo, I can just grab his.
Now, when you play out, and you play quite a few places in the Frederick area, you're doing some wineries and things like that. And actually, let me go back up here to the top. And I know a lot of these are past gigs. If you're anything like me, I totally forget to update my website.
Oh, yep. I do that. I'm terrible.
But you get 10th Ward, you play actually fairly often, I think, don't you?
Yep.
Yep. When you go out to, say, play at 10th Ward, do you take just the one banjo or do you take a guitar as well?
I take both. I take a guitar and a banjo. Yep.
Now, you do that just because so you can play your guitar songs, or is it also to kind of change up the dynamics of the show so it's not the banjo all the time or not the guitar all the time?
Both reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was trying to, like, for the longest time, I was trying to get away from playing guitar live. Just, I had some kind, I'm contrary. So, when people are like, oh, I love it when you play guitar. I'm like, I'm going to play banjo. But it's nice for me to be able to incorporate some of the songs I wrote on guitar really, and I like. So I've been learning to incorporate more guitar into my shows. It makes it good for me too. It's like, it makes it more interesting. I'm a solo performer, and you understand, as a solo performer, you do it for a really long time, and then you're like, here we go again.
Yep.
So it is nice to switch it up. Actually, I just built a suitcase kick drum.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I'm insane, but it's fun. So eventually that will be coming out, and there's a couple of the older tunes, especially some of the old acoustic blues tunes on the banjo that work really well with the suitcase drum.
Now, how are you going to keep the suitcase from falling over when you hit the pedal?
I sit on it.
Oh, so you're using the pedal that's kind of backwards that a lot of the cajon players use.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I've got you.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of the sound of a cajon. And I tried to use a stomp box for a hot minute, like one of those little log jam Logitech things, and I didn't like that sound too much for what I see. I love it with other people, and for me it's like there's a specific sound that I'm looking for. So I wanted to try to build the kick drum because I wanted that.
Yeah, the
specific sound.
The pedal ones that I've heard, they just don't have that oomph that like a suitcase bass drum or a cajon has. And I'm sure it's just because there's no volume, there's no resonance. It's just really a piezo pickup on a
it's just like a dun, dun, dun.
It's almost like the click track in the studio that's just a real high-pitched click that drives me nuts.
Yeah. So then we all have, like, past trauma from trying to stay and do click tracks.
Yep.
Then you're like, no, I don't want anything to do with that.
Yeah, I finally was able to get my recording engineer to come up with one that's kind of like a bonk.
Yeah.
And it's that, at least I can, they always say, don't listen to it, just hear it.
Yes.
Because if you listen to it, you're going to think you're going too slow, so you'll speed up. Then you think you're going too fast. You just don't listen to it, just hear it. So, but I agree with you that plus it looks cooler, especially if you can find an old suitcase that maybe has like the tweed look or one of the stripes on it or something.
Oh yeah, I got the vintage stamp tonight.
Oh, cool.
We're good to go.
That's very, very, very cool. So what is your live setup like? If you're going to go out and play at, say, a winery or a brewery, how do you
Right.
amplify? What do you use?
I use the Bose Pro L1 Pro 8
Okay.
currently,
Yep.
which it's great for me because I'm doing these gigs by myself.
Yeah.
I'm not a very big woman, so I said the years of me hoisting speakers up over my head and carrying large powered mixers are over.
Well, and Bose, as we know, really revolutionized the small gig PA market.
Yeah.
With the L1 tower first and all their iterations, and I have two of those in the basement. Actually, three because I have a compact as well. And then I have two of the little S1, the little 15-pound cubes that actually sound incredibly good.
Yeah.
Is that what you use with your 8? And the newer version Bose towers, I'm not as familiar with because I know they changed them about a year and a half ago.
Right. It's got the subwoofer on the bottom
Yeah.
and then the tower on the top. And
Yep.
I use the mixer, the Bose mixer,
Yep.
like that goes with it. I am not a fan of the reverb. I don't really like their effects all that much, but I like the way that it sounds natural. It's a natural sounding. It doesn't, the mixer is an Ethernet hook up, so there's no fuzz or noise in the speakers when you're not playing, and it's easy to set up, and it fits in the back of the trunk of the car, which is great. And when I start playing larger venues, of course I'm going to have to upgrade.
You'd be surprised though. I don't play at Reg Hedman Farm Brew, which is at Linganore Wine Cellars anymore. When I did, and you're outside in the pavilion, you're looking straight up. The buildings are off to the left. The house is up the hill. But that grassy area goes down about 100 yards to the right, and people sit all the way down there. The wonderful thing about Bose, as you well know, is the sound coverage is 180 degrees, and they actually sound almost as good from behind as they do from the front. But what I would do is take my tower and face it straight ahead so it would hit the people in front of me off to the right, and I take a little S1 and put it over to the edge on the right going down 100 yards, and believe it or not, it carries.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
Yeah, you just have to set it up, and the drawback is using them in a noise, and you've probably found this, many of the breweries and some of the wineries, they have done the insides of their buildings, the tasting rooms, in this beautiful hardwood or metal or whatever, and it's wonderful, but it's like a cacophony of sound. Everything bounces.
That's terrible.
It is awful, and it's
terrible.
No kind of PA system is going to work well in those situations. Although I will say that I have discovered that the Bose systems, because they don't just project the sound straight out, it's in a kind of a sweep, it does work a little bit better. So you actually have a very good system for indoor, outdoor. Kudos to you.
Yes. Good. Yes, I'm happy. That's my biggest pet peeve. I go out and listen to a lot of live music when I can. And my biggest issue with performers is that, they're a great band or they're a great group or they're a great solo performer, but they don't know how to run their sound properly, or the equipment that they have is not used to the best that it could be used for. And so the sound is always like, the overuse of them not knowing how to EQ and just the equipment itself not working to the best of its ability it's makes me insane. So that was the thing that I was like, when I do my stuff, I'm going to make sure that I sit with it and I learn how to use it. And I make sure that, it's decent equipment.
I had this discussion with my first video podcast with my good friend Ralph Hirchis, who hadn't performed in many, many years and has just started going out and playing at open mics. And his big concern about open mics, or the thing he doesn't like about it, and I will sit right beside him and say the same thing, because although I ran them for many years, I've also gone to many. And many of the hosts who will play the first couple songs will adjust everything to their settings and then just leave it that way for anybody who comes up. And as you and I both know, everyone's singing volume is different. How close they are to the mic is different. Their guitar or whatever instrument they're playing could be set at a different volume. And it's very, very frustrating. Many of the open mic hosts or people going into it don't understand sound. So That's wonderful that you have educated yourself on how to get a sound that you like, because if you like it, the people listening are going to like it.
Right. Yep. That's my, it's me. I think we've gone back to, I like things specifically for a specific sound. And if it's not the sound that I want to get out of it, then it's it's important.
And speaking,
it's art.
Yes. And speaking of live sound, and we are recording this on Wednesday, August the 9th here in Frederick, Maryland. And Dominica is actually performing this Sunday at the Sunday Brunch Concert Series behind the Frederick Coffee Company on the Chabreau stage from 11 until 1. So if you are in the Frederick, Maryland area or close by and you want to hear some really, really good Americana style clawhammer banjo and maybe some guitar, please come out. You can stop at the Frederick Coffee Company, get a coffee or a smoothie and a muffin or breakfast or lunch sandwich. Come out and sit. Adirondack chairs. It's the cutest little staging area for live music in the Mid-Atlantic. And Dominica is going to be the featured performer, and I'm looking forward to it.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit before we end our conversation. On your website, on the events page, on the booking page, you talk about growing up in a musical family and you've been a musician since childhood. Tell me a little bit how that all worked, what the musical family was. When did you get into an instrument or singing? I
think I had posted a picture of me at one point on one of my social medias, and I was maybe 3 and had a microphone in my hand. No, my mom is a singer. So they weren't professional musicians. But everybody in the house played something. So my brother had a drum kit downstairs, and my dad played guitar, and my mom would be singing all the time, and all of their friends were musicians. So they would all get together and have these big jams. And, I always joke, I'm like, I ran around in my diapers on a beach and everybody was just playing music, and that was just normal. That was the way it was supposed to be. I would go to friends' houses and I'd be like, you guys don't have any instruments? They have like a, upright piano in the corner that had dust on it nobody touched. But
Now, where did you grow up?
Southern Maryland, in Lesby.
Oh, okay.
On the right on the western shore of the Chesapeake Bay.
Yeah. The Chesapeake Bay, which is famous for sea nettles in the summertime.
Oh, yes. Yep. You put Vaseline on yourself and you're good.
Yeah, my ex-brother-in-law had a place down in Southern Maryland back in the 80s, and we went to visit one time, and it was the second week of June. And we're out, swimming and having a great time. He had a jet ski. We were out on the jet ski. And we were sitting there over dinner later with a glass of wine. He says, it's a good thing you came down this week and not next week. I said, well, why? Is this a holiday coming up? It's going to be busy? He goes, oh, no. The third week of June is when the sea nettles show up.
Yep.
I was like, what do you mean the sea nettles? Because I'm from New England. We had jellyfish, but they were about half the size of your palm. And they were just this gelatin thing you used to throw at each other. You rarely had one that stung.
Oh, yeah. No, these sting.
So what was your very first instrument that you played?
Guitar.
It was guitar.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, how old were you when you actually picked one up and decided this might be fun?
Oh, gosh. 10-ish, 11.
Mm-hmm. Now, since your dad was a guitar player, did he show you some rudimentary chords, things like that?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
Now, did the family ever have like a little, you said jams and things with friends, but did you ever start like a family band?
No.
No?
No, it wasn't like that. Friends would come over and, especially when I got into like my angsty teen years and my preteen years, I was hatched from an egg. And, the friends would come over, my parents would be like, oh, sing us a song. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to. But I would. But yeah, then I just, was hatched from an egg and had my little, the Cure posters in my room because I'm a 90s kid and in excess and Depeche Mode, and I'd shut the door and write angsty teen music on my guitar, and it was great.
Now, how old were you when you decided to become a professional musician? In other words, you actually started to get gigs?
When I was around 19, 20.
Yeah? Was it like coffee house gigs or?
We used to go to this place. I was probably not supposed to be there. So we're going to say I was 21.
Yep.
And going to this place for, I had a roommate. I would play guitar and music all the time. And I made this little 4-track tape recording. I don't even know. It's gone. I'm way older than 21 now, but, she like took it without me knowing it and took it to this like bar way out in the middle of nowhere in St. Mary's County. Cause I was living in St. Mary's at the time. I was working at the Navy base at Pax River Navy base. And so she took it to this bar. I did not have enough material. And back then you played 4-hour gigs. Like you played all night. I didn't have enough material. And she snuck it to the bar owner. And he called me and said, do you want to play a gig? And I was like, sure. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any PA equipment. I knew a friend who was like, I got you. And he set me up with all the PA equipment and ran my sound for me. And I just buckled down and tried to learn as many 3-chord wonders as I possibly could learn. And then after that was it. Then I was like, oh, I guess this is what I do now.
Well, and you are continuing that.
Yeah.
So what,
I mean, that's sort of how it started with the banjo too, because I didn't want to play out. I did not. I did it for a long time. Of course, because that was a long time ago. And then, it's difficult to be a professional musician and play until 12:31 in the morning, and then get a kid off school on the bus the next day. So I took a break, and I didn't want to. I was like, I'm good. I don't need to play out. I just want to sit here on my couch and learn to play my banjo. And my banjo teacher made me sing a song for her on Zoom, and I didn't want to do it. And she's like, well, why? And I'm like, I don't want to. She's like, just do it. And I did it. And she said, you have a really good voice. You should play out. And I'm like, why did you say that?
So what does the future hold for you as far as gigging? What's your goal, if you have one?
right now I'm just enjoying it. It's just great. I would like to branch out further out of Frederick for sure. I need to record more. That is going to happen. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any major plans.
Well,
definitely like getting out of the area and expansion is always good, but I'm not going to push it. I'm going to kind of just keep writing, developing, learning. I'm starting to, I'm still taking lessons. I'm still, working on learning new skills and techniques.
Well, how often would you like to play or have a gig, say per month? A couple, 3, 4, once a week? What's your goal? What would be your happy place as far as playing out?
In the summer, I like to keep one weekend open for camping, but every other weekend I'd like to fill. So probably eight gigs a month is good. It's like, it's not too much, but it's enough.
It's enough to not to get tired of it.
Right.
Because
exactly.
like anything else, I had a client one time who said, Todd, I've retired twice. I retired the first time so I could play golf all the time. And after 2 years, I was so sick of golf, I went back and started a second career. And I did that for another 10 years. And then I decided I wanted to play golf full time again. I played golf for 6 months and hated it. He says, I still play occasionally for fun. He says, and that's my happy place.
Right. You just find that sweet spot.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I have a weekend that's only got one gig in it, or, I have to keep telling, because I'm a workaholic and I will work a lot. I will not say no to work. But I have to keep reminding myself, this is the journey. If you have a weekend that only has one show in it or whatever, you don't have FOMO. You stop that right now. You can use this time for other things.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, for those of you listening, if you're anywhere close to Frederick, Maryland this Sunday, and today is Wednesday, August the 9th, and you'd like to hear Dominica play, she's going to be at the Chabrot stage behind the Frederick Coffee Company, which is right at 100 East Street, right in the corner of Gas House. Well, it's actually, well, anyways, you can look it up and get the directions, but the stage is right behind it, behind another building, which is next door. It's the cutest place. She's going to be there from 11 to 1. And we want to thank Dominica for joining us here today on the podcast. This has been great getting to know you again after so many years.
I know. It's been a hot minute, hasn't it?
It has. And like I said, you still look the same. The rest of us have bypassed you by many, many, many years. So keep up what you're doing. I always
joke, and I say I'm actually a 425-year-old forest witch, and I'm not going to tell you how I got.
Yeah, I have my own secret potions, yeah. Well, on that note, thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of the day. And quick question. Have you played the banjo yet today?
I have not.
So you have at least 2 more hours in your day to play banjo. I
do.
All right. Well, you go and do it. And thanks again for joining me.
All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
That was Dominica Knapp and DominicaKnappMusic.com. And Dominica is spelled Dominica, Knapp, Knapp, music, DominicaKnappMusic.com. And again, join us this Sunday if you're in Frederick, Maryland, for the Sunday's brunch concert series, where she's going to feature from 11 to 1. And we're going to finish the show with one of her songs on guitar titled Where I Stand.
If I stand stand here real still? Could I let the whole world pass me by? Those men and women with their suits and cells just move way too fast, way too fast. I just want to stand here and watch the blue sky turn to black as the blackbirds switch to stars, so I can think about how good or bad my life has been so far. How good or bad my life has been so far. Ain't it a shame? It's so hard to stop and think anymore. Ain't it a shame we got too many places to be anymore? Ain't it a shame? It's so hard to stop and breathe anymore. It feels like it's just me. Yeah, it feels like it's just me now. I can't ask your name. No, I forget, but I feel compelled to ask you. And after you walk away and leave me where I stand, it's gone. We know each other better than we ever had. I met you on the World Wide Web. We know each other better than we ever had, better than we ever had. Ain't it a shame? It's so hard to stop and think anymore. Ain't it a shame we got too many places to be anymore? Ain't it a shame? It's so hard to stop and breathe anymore. It feels like it's just me. Yeah, it feels like it's just me now. If I stand here real still, could I let the whole world pass me by? Pass me by, 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 by. Bye, 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 bye.
The Wispy Mop Music Acoustic Radio Podcast Series is produced by me, Todd Middle Initial C. Walker. Yes, that's right, it's me, at the Wispy Mop Music Studio in Frederick, Maryland. All the music on the podcast is played by permission from the artist. If you're enjoying the series, please feel free to share it. You can find it on either iTunes or Apple Podcasts, or you can go direct to wispymopmusic.podbean.com. Any way works, as long as you listen and share it. And thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye now.